Welcome to The Explainer. So, today, we're going to be diving into something that literally affects every single one of us. But, let's be real, it's often seen as just a bunch of frustrating paperwork. We're talking about taxes. But hold on, it's actually super fascinating when you think about it as the intersection of our civic duty and some really precise math. It's the actual engine of our communities. We're going to unpack the Nepalese taxation system today, breaking down exactly how things like income tax and VAT actually work. By the end of this, you'll see how these rules literally build the world around us.
Here is our quick roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start with the purpose of taxation, then look at direct versus indirect taxes, introduce personal income tax, break down the progressive tax system, and finally wrap up with unmarried versus married allowances. Let's get right to it.
All right, part one, the purpose of taxation. Why do we actually pay them in the first place? Think about your everyday commute for a second. When you see a brand new road being paved right here in Go-Karneshwar municipality, or maybe a new public hospital opening up, how exactly is all of that funded? It doesn't just appear out of thin air, right? It takes serious capital. And that brings us to the core mechanism that makes all of this local infrastructure possible.
So simply put, a tax is a compulsory financial contribution that's imposed by the government. Now, notice that word right there, compulsory. This is absolutely crucial. A tax is not some voluntary donation where you drop a few rupees in a bucket. It is a mandatory legal contribution. It's calculated based on things like a person's income or business profits, or even just tacked onto the cost of certain goods. And the whole reason for this, it's to fund exactly what we were just talking about, public development and administrative services. Basically, it's the financial fuel that drives our community forward.
Moving on to Section 2, direct versus indirect taxes.
Okay, so there are mainly two ways this works. Direct taxes are exactly what they sound like. They are levied straight on you, the individual, or your specific assets. We're talking income tax, property tax, vehicle tax. You get a bill or you file a return and you pay it directly to the government. Simple enough, right? But then we have indirect taxes, things like value-added tax, VAT, and customs duties. These are really interesting because they're kind of silently added into your everyday transactions. So when you go buy groceries, the VAT is already baked right into that sticker price. You are absolutely still paying a tax, but you're doing it indirectly through the merchant.
All right, Section 3. Let's zoom in a bit and introduce personal income tax, basically taxing what you earn. Now, income tax is a tax levied directly on personal income or business profits. This means the amount you owe is intrinsically tied to the exact amount of money you generate. If you think about it, it's pretty much the ultimate direct tax. Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, the progressive tax system. Let's see how these rates actually scale up.
So here's how a progressive system works. As your income goes up, the rate of tax on your next segment of income also goes up. Now really catch that phrase, the next segment, not your entire income. Actually, scratch the technical jargon. Just think of it like climbing a giant staircase. The very first few steps you take might have a super low toll to step on them. But as you climb higher and higher, earning more money, the toll for those upper steps becomes steeper. It's a pretty intuitive system, honestly. It's designed so that those earning more are contributing a higher percentage of their top-tier earnings, rather than just slapping everyone with one flat, potentially punishing rate across the board.
If we break down the standard progressive tax slabs based on the Pabson curriculum, you can clearly see this staircase in action. Your first block of income, think of it like your first bucket, is taxed at a very low baseline. But once that bucket is completely full, any extra money spills over into the next bracket, and that overflow is taxed at a slightly higher percentage, and so on and so on. It's an entire sequence built to ensure fairness. It scales the actual tax burden to match an individual's financial capacity.
Now let's take a really close look at the very first step on that staircase, 1%. The crucial takeaway here is that this specific number represents the absolute baseline. Here in Nepal, this first 1% tax tier isn't just generic tax money. It is explicitly designated as a social security tax. This is huge. Before you even start paying those higher progressive rates for general government revenue, the very first sliver of your contribution is specifically ring-fenced. It's set aside to build a social safety net for the broader population.
Finally, Section 5, unmarried versus married allowances. Let's look at how your status changes the math. So, for unmarried individuals, the standard structure lays out a baseline slab of 5 lakh rupees before any of those higher rates kick in. But if you're looking at married couples, that threshold gets bumped up to 6 lakh rupees. Makes sense, right? The system is basically acknowledging that a family unit generally comes with higher foundational living expenses.
Because of that, they grant married couples a slightly higher threshold. Essentially, they get a slightly larger first step on that progressive staircase before the heavier tax rates start applying.
And that brings us to our final thought for this explainer. The next time you're checking out at the store and see VAT quietly added to your receipt, or you're looking over your income tax slip, are you just going to see some annoying math? Or are you going to see the essential building blocks of Gokarneshwar's future? The math we broke down today isn't just numbers on a page, it is literally the foundation of our schools, our roads, and our entire community. Thanks so much for exploring this with me today, and hey, keep looking for those fascinating structures hidden behind the everyday world.